Okay, recording in progress. Hi, my name's Lars. I'm an alcoholic. I've started pausing after I say that. I started, I don't know, 2, 3, 4, 5 months ago to allow my higher power to enter in to the meeting with me and to engage, to hopefully have my higher power speak through me to carry a message of hope and sobriety to you this evening. It's also, I am publicly declaring that I am an alcoholic on this forum that's, she's about to hit 200 people on Zoom and recorded. And it's a reminder, we check in, we're on a lot of meetings. I'm in a lot of meetings. Let me get it. Phil stepped away for a minute, but Phil, thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me to speak here. It is an honor and a privilege to speak at any room of Alcoholics Anonymous at any time. I've been doing whatever, I've been doing a bunch of it, which I just really lately, which is a privilege. But we talk often, we check in and we say, so many things we do I wrote the Serenity Prayer. And we say, it might be, Phil, I'm an alcoholic. But it's nice, I've tried to really recognize that. And as a reminder, so recognize that, okay, I'm an alcoholic with this disease. Like if you said, hi, I'm Lars, I have some other disease, heart disease. So it's an opportunity to do that. And I just wanted something I've been thinking about. So I'm going to talk about things I've been thinking about lately, just sort of on my mind. There's so much to potentially talk about. And so let me think before that. I have been doing this. I love AA. I love Zoom, and I love Zoom. I've been going to Phil's group, gotta be over, maybe it's a year and a half. I could think these guys, with COVID, with pandemic, I think they started right up. So we are unfortunately about 2 years now. And I think they started right up. And let me thank Stephen, who always says his last name, Stephen Todd, who is one of the greatest trusted servants we've got. And Phil described Daily Ponderables. That's an email. Let me give a pitch for that. If you don't get it, get on it. It's an email that comes in at about 6 a.m. automatically. He's got it automatically transmitted. Well, that comes in, that's got all our daily readers on it. So it's got daily reflections, 24 hours a day, and various, it's also got Keep It Simple, which is another daily book. So like I have them hard copies on my kitchen table, but I'm usually looking to that, and then you can read it whenever you want on the go. And also he adds other things in that people send, that really fabulous. And then if you're on the list, I automatically am getting the recordings. So I highly recommend doing that. And Stephen says that, I think he last said he's at about 10,000 people he's sending that to. So let me thank Stephen Todd for all of his service and for running the meetings along with Phil. Let me start the meeting. You know what I was thinking, what I'd like to start the meeting with? There's something called the Set Aside Prayer, which is read in a lot of AA meetings. And it says, set aside prayers. God, please help me set aside everything I think I know about myself, my disease, these steps, and especially you, for an open mind and a new experience with myself, my disease, these steps, and especially you, God. I can get in really in a kind of a rut, this kind of AA rut of and I've been hearing a lot of this lately of people feeling kind of played out, burnt out, tired. And I think I have to keep an open mind for new experience, to hear new things. I'm trying to stay engaged. Very much. I'm going to give you some of my background and qualify with some background details in just a minute, but just open up with this. And, it's one of the things we were just saying, Ralph White, I think he's someone I listen to a lot and is a particularly tremendous speaker. And one of his things, he says, come all the way in and sit all the way down. So get engaged. For me, I sometimes say you or we, because I think I'm assuming if you're on here on a Saturday night at 8 p.m. Eastern time, you're an alcoholic or an addict, or both. I'm an alcoholic and an addict. I mean, I don't think they're separable really. And by the way, the big book in the, not to get into it, but the issue of drugs, it's incredibly clear in the big book and the stories of Bill Wilson and Dr. Bob Smith that they both were using drugs pretty extensively. And they had a problem with drugs. So anyway, but so be open to new ideas. And it's interesting in looking at how it works, that it says that towards the end, with all the earnest, we beg of you to be fearless and thorough from the very. Some of us have tried to hold on to our old ideas, and the result was nil until we let go. Absolutely. What is an old idea? And I used to think of this as something from pre-sobriety, and from 10, 20, 30 years ago. An old idea is something yesterday, this morning, maybe. It's, last week. So let's keep in mind and to be open-minded, because so important to this program, which is the acronym HOW, H-O-W. I've got to be honest, open-minded, standing for an acronym, and willing. Honest, I have to stay that way. Otherwise, it's going to get sort of tired and stale. My date of sobriety, let me qualify, give you some, what are they called, particulars or something like that, details, content. September 6, 2014. I have been continuously sober, clean and sober since that date. I have not taken anything that has affected me from the head up, not prescribed by me, by a doctor for me. Okay, and that's something I'd say that if there's a prescription, you talk to a sponsee. Is it prescribed by a doctor? It's prescribed to you. All right, so just to keep that in mind. I'm a little ahead, celebrated in September, 7 years. This is my first attempt at sobriety. It seems to have worked out. I continue to stay sober one day at a time. And relapse has not been a necessary part of my journey. So haven't had any alcohol or mind-altering drugs since that date in September. I have a sponsor whose name is Joe K. And he has a sponsor who's Doug P. I have sponsees who I speak to daily and text daily. And I drank and used drugs so drugs are part of my story. I'm not going to really get into that, but since not too many people that didn't also of our grouping that didn't use drugs as well, for at least 40 years. And it was, so at least maybe it was 41. And I covered, it's funny, I looked at it, covers actually, decade of the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, it covered 5 decades. So I want to be anyway. So now I've come in. The thing is, I enjoyed it. Early on, I enjoyed it quite a bit, and it was nice and it was fun. There's the conviviality, but what happens is it became my solution to all the problems, what we call isms, like I'm not enough, my fear of am I enough? Do people like me? If I have resentments and so on, became the answer, because I could get out of myself through the use of alcohol, but it started to become a problem. It became a problem with time. First of all, I was drinking sort of around the clock. I used to drink only weekends. I started drinking basically every day. Pretty much, and even sometimes in the morning. I wasn't regularly doing that, but it didn't have any of the things we call yets, had not yet happened. So it made it a little difficult to come in. Like happens as part of my story, I didn't go to jail. I did not have a DWI. I was not fired. I was not divorced. I was not hospitalized. I was not in a fight. So it made it a little bit difficult. That made second part of step 1 a little bit difficult, the unmanageable. But if I'm drinking, I think if any person is thinking all the time about their next drink, as I was, an alcoholic, and your life is unmanageable. I'm going to, put out that opinion of mine. Anything I say is obviously my opinion, my thoughts on alcoholism and the program Alcoholics Anonymous and the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm not speaking for AA, of course, but it became a problem. So I needed to address that problem. And I said, it's time for me to get sober. It was largely to do with family relationships. My family relationships were deteriorating, and now family relationships are very important to me. And I didn't want that to continue. I knew if it would continue, they'd probably have a complete fracture of the relationships with my family. I didn't want that. And now the relationships are very strong. So I said, it's time for me to get sober. I also have a history of alcoholism in my family with other family members, siblings, etc. So I decided to get sober. And since early on, I jumped in and got fully engaged. And my example, my first 90 days, which is pre-COVID, and we were going to all in-person meetings. I was at about 140 or 150 meetings, which is, 90 days is a fair amount, not on Zoom. Now, there's a lot of us that are on, I know people on here that are on 2 or 3 a day. And it's not, we do it because we like it. I know that I like it. And it's, I'm learning. I like to be learning and growing my understanding of the big book, growing my understanding. Psychology, a lot of this is basically mental issues. So speaking of mental issues, let's remember that we want to set aside our old ideas and be open to new ideas. I find alcoholism it's a threefold disease. And I don't know, we didn't say they're beginners. Got to assume 204 people. There's a couple newcomers on here, 30 days or less. And that's tough the first 30 days, to stay sober. Our body, we want to drink. We're programmed. I say we, because again, excuse me, I was just looking at a chat message, excuse me. I'm programmed to drink. I'm hardwired to drink. Especially if I drank 40 years, that's a lot of time. I hardwired my brain. Probably my brain chemistry just knows alcohol and to go to alcohol. So if I have any type of discomfort of any sort, what I know is, I'm uncomfortable. What would make me comfortable? Alcohol. If it's someone's, have a resentment, I'm angry, if I get fired, if it's, I'm supposed to go on a picnic and it's raining, anything. My sports team loses, Christ, that'll send us into it. But so with the threefold disease, let me just read what I recommend one to understand this, particularly if you're a beginner. There's something at the main part of we have the big book. So I was going to say the main part of the big book. The big book is constructed as 164 pages. At the beginning is our primary text, and then there's stories after it. Okay, there's our personal stories. It was first published in 1939, and we're now on our 4th edition. Probably we're going to come out, and then they are working on a new edition. So that's the 4th edition came out in 2001, and so that's 20 years now, and they are working on a new edition. And I would say one thing is, this has been a pretty rotten time, the pandemic, and I think it is created. I mean, it's not, that's not a hidden issue, right? So we're living in it. And it has changed. It's really altered the landscape for everybody and everybody's life, and for AA. But the thing is, I think for AA, it has been kind of a silver lining. There's been a silver lining to it, and then it's opened up Zoom. I mean, I'm going to be in this meeting in I'm in New York. I'm outside of New York City, a little ways, but I'm in the meeting in Tennessee, and there's folks all over the place. I'm regularly in a meeting. I go to a meeting every single day in California. And I chair meetings 2 days a week in California. And then I go to a large big book meeting, which is fabulous, every single Sunday morning, that's based out of LA. It's Ralph White's big book meeting, particularly wonderful meeting. As are many of them. And then on afternoons, I'm in like UK, England, Spain, Israel, and Berlin. I go, which is for a group, the primetime group. So it's opened up for these other new voices, the message maybe with a different tenor. a different orientation. So I can hear that a little bit. Wow, that's interesting. I didn't think of that. A little bit different. So it's opened that world to me and to many of us. I have heard this from other folks, and a lot of people are thinking, saying this, and it's just given us an opportunity. It's kind of this renaissance, almost this rebirth and the renewal. Many people have said it has reinvigorated their AA program, which has happened for me. And I think it's a wonderful thing, and I continue to take advantage of it. That's what, kind of going back to what Phil said. You see us, we know certain people they're powerful messengers. And we're able, they're in LA, Las Vegas. Las Vegas is one, a lot in Texas for sure, and Florida, all over the country. And we're able through this technology to take advantage of hearing them when they're asked to speak. And I was going to say the doctor. So we have 164 pages. That's the main text. And then the personal stories. Why are the personal stories in there? Because this book was contemplated when it came out as that one man. It says towards the end of Vision of You, if you be but one man sitting and reading this alone, we hope that this will be enough to convince you that our suggested program will be sufficient to help you recover from alcoholism. And then says, as our personal stories show you. So if you're sitting there in North Dakota or Kentucky or Hawaii or wherever, Alaska, we know that it is worldwide. This disease does not discriminate, because it covers every age, gender, race, religion, ethnicity. We now have seen this all over. I read the story. It was in a big book meeting that based out of Oakland, California this morning. It was the story in the book about a blind woman. I had forgotten that. I think it's winner takes all, something like that. I forgot. So, people that are blind are in the program. In fact, there's a fabulous speaker, Blind Dave. He's blind and he goes by Blind Dave, who I've spoken to a number of times and heard speak. It was quite wonderful. But so it does not discriminate, and it's all sorts of people have this problem. And the personal stories I was saying, the point of those is that so you could be sitting alone with this book and read those stories, and they serve like I am speaking tonight. They serve as someone telling their story so you can relate to the story, and it gives many of the principles plus background and demonstrate and say, oh, I'm like that. I would say do your best. I do my best to identify with what people are saying rather than compare. If you think, oh, this guy's in New York, what the hell does he have to say? Or whatever. He's got this shirt on. People can do that. Looking on Zoom world, we can do that. We can start to judge people. Once I'm into judgment, that's a very dangerous territory, I find, for myself. So I try to identify, even like this. So with the story of blind woman, think, well, I'm not a woman. I'm not blind. Glad that I have my sight. That's one of the things I'm grateful for. I have all of my senses. But their story, everything else, we're all the same. We want alcohol, whatever our age, it's age, gender, so on, race, and want the same. And we have it's amazing, the same isms, the mental kind of affliction, the fear, the self-centered fear that we're driven by, the feeling of being less than, not enough. That people aren't going to like me, or do they like me? The people pleasing. It's amazing the commonality that I hear, which I heard from my very first meeting. But that is the reason that the stories are in there. And then the first story is Dr. Bob's Nightmare, which is the story of Dr. Bob Wilson. Dr. Bob Smith. That's Dr. Bob. The AA was started by Bill Wilson and Dr. Bob. And actually the start date, the commencement date of AAs is counted by when Dr. Bob got sober and stayed sober permanently, which was in 1935. And Bill got sober in the end of 34. And what was this paragraph that I was just going to look at? Men and women so the doctor's opinion lays out the nature of this disease. I'd say if you're early to program, or whenever you are in program, read the doctor's opinion. And I was just thinking, I used to say this often: read it again, read it again, read it again. And then when you're done with that, read it 10 times more. Because it seems like kind of like, let's say like Greek, or, a foreign language is what I mean by that. a foreign language. It is kind of heavy stuff, but it's got so carries the message. I'm looking at the bottom of XXVIII. It's in small Roman numerals. Why is that? Because the 164 pages were written, and then Bill realized he needed a doctor to weigh in on this, and he had the doctor weigh in, which was his doctor, Silkworth. He was at the Towns Hospital, which is in upper New York City, which is where he was. It's specifically a hospital to treat alcoholism, and so that's why it's Roman numerals. But men and women drink essentially because they like the effect produced by alcohol. The sensation is so elusive that while they admit it is injurious, they cannot, after a time, differentiate the true from the false. You can't differentiate. This is ad-libbing here, me or adding on. Differentiate the true from the false. That sounds like insanity, right? To them, returning to text, to them, their alcoholic life seems the only normal one. That sounds insane. They are restless, irritable, discontent, unless they can again experience the sense of ease and comfort, which comes at once by taking a few drinks which they see others take with impunity. After, anyone, I would say, circle that word, after they have succumbed to the desire again, as so many do, and the phenomenon of craving develops. They pass through the well-known stages of spree, emerging remorseful with a firm resolution not to drink again. This is repeated over and over, and unless that person can experience an entire psychic change, there is very little hope of his recovery. I would equate the psychic change there to a spiritual experience as described throughout the book. And there's an appendix 2 at the end that describes spiritual experience. So the point being that there's a mental component. We alcoholics, like I certainly have this, and I'm going to assume if you're alcoholics on meeting here, that you have this mental obsession to drink, because if I'm uncomfortable about something, like I think someone's angry at me, or I got fired from a job, or I had a big sale fall through, I'm uncomfortable. I think, oh, I screwed that up. I made a mistake. I don't like that. I'm uncomfortable. What do I want? I want ease and comfort, which will come at once I take a drink. That's the mental component. It's a mental obsession. We think, I'm uncomfortable. It's not like, say, an itch. I have an itch, I scratch it like that, it's gone. But it doesn't work like that with this type of mental discomfort. Of course, physical discomfort is a different arena as well. I'm not talking about that as much, and that can be is very difficult, because pain is often addressed through drugs and alcohol, physical pain. But then once we take, at this point, it's only mental. It's only mental. There's not a physical event. The allergy is not occurring. But once we take a drink, there is a physical event that occurs, physical phenomenon that occurs within our body. Once we've had the drink, and then a physical craving commences. And I believe we are physically and biologically different than non-alcoholics. I have friends take one drink. They sit there with half the beer. After 2 hours, half the beer there. They don't need more. They don't want more. So their body is not craving it. What's important to me about that is to know that it's the physical part. It's not in my body. I think in the early days, maybe 30 days or so, is still in the body, because I haven't detoxed out of alcohol. But in those early, but after that, it's really the mental. So it's all my mind, and that's what's sort of, it's kind of a blessing in a way, because that means I don't have some physical thing I've got to do. I just got to address, through the spiritual tools given to me within this program, address that mental concern. Like if I've got this thinking, either this too shall pass, this will pass, to think the drink through, move a muscle. Some of these are some sayings: move a muscle, change a thought. If I'm sitting there and I'm like, let me go out and let me go go for a walk, a run, get out in nature, which is very good for me. Do the dishes, do some laundry, do whatever, do help your children with homework, something like that. Do that. I'm not going to be thinking about alcohol any longer. I'm not even, why was I thinking about alcohol? And so I've got to change my setting, change my context. But the thing about that, we will stay that way unless it was determined with Silkworth. Dr. Silkworth writes in the doctor's opinion, and then it follows throughout the entire AA literature. We are only going to be relieved of this disease by a spiritual experience, some spiritual experience of some sort, which is also considered here a psychic change. So that's a change in my, like, it's described in the appendix on spiritual experience. It seemed like sort of heady, difficult terms, but and Bill Wilson had a white light experience. It's like there, he was in the hospital. They thought he saw God, and then he never, he didn't drink again. So, and then they put the spiritual experience appendix in to clarify and saying, well, everybody thought after the book came out that they needed to have an experience like that, and that like a white light experience. And they in fact say that's an error. It's quite a big thing that the authors of the book will acknowledge an error after the first edition came out. They're saying that they found many people were more of a educational variety, as citing to William James's writings on who wrote about religious experiences. And that what that means is it's a gradual growth, which is applicable to me, that over a period of time, for me, it's a period of years, there's been a spiritual experience, which is a transformation, a change in my personality. So if I used to be a mean, angry person all the time, and I've suddenly realized, let me change that to be kind, patient, kind, tolerant, loving, hold the door for people. Those little things you can do, help someone with a bag of groceries, whereas before I wouldn't do all of those things. I would say that's a transformation for me and a spiritual experience. And I have had a spiritual experience and perhaps a spiritual awakening. So that's enough on that. Consider that the big book manual, that the big book is the same as saying the book called an Alcoholics Anonymous. It's commonly referred to as the big book. Someone may not know that on here. And it's really an instruction manual. It's hard to see on the first reading, but after many readings, it gives us instruction. Well, there are 12 steps in there. And I would put of the opinion that if you're in a 12-step program, do the 12 steps. If you're not in doing the steps, you're not really doing a 12-step program. So do the steps, do the step work like I did with my sponsor. I have done work with my sponsees, do the steps. Otherwise, are you really in a 12-step program? Maybe you're not drinking, but if you're not doing this and engaged, it might be what has been termed dry drunk. And you're going to be, and frequently we find that someone like that is just simply angry. They can be extreme. Now, wow, I have to move along. So on my time, it's an instruction manual. I've just thought of this today. What happens if when an instruction manual for like a tool, a drill, your dishwasher, something like that, my computer, if I'm having trouble, what do I look for? I go to the section called troubleshooting. If I have problem with my alcoholism, I'm feeling all off base, I need troubleshooting. I can go to this book as an instruction manual and figure out where to look to troubleshoot. Go to that today. And I've got resentment, section on resentment. I've got anger, section on that. I've got a problem with sex conduct. There's a section on that. I've got problems with my wife, something on that. There's a problem with my employer. I've got something on that. I've got problems with anything else, whatever. What I don't understand what this whole God thing is. Read We Agnostics. The chapter We Agnostics was written to basically overcome my prejudices against my belief system about there being the existence of a God or not, or a higher power. That is what We Agnostics is in there for, and makes a really compelling argument for belief in a higher power and the existence of a higher power. It's an instruction manual. So the main problem with the alcoholic, as I was saying before, being the mental condition, centers in his mind. So it's all mental. And so the good thing about that is realizing that if we address our mental situation, that we can address our alcoholism. And what I wanted to just then get back to was, excuse me, I was going to cite something in here that the troubles with the out are basically of our, it says on 62. So our troubles, we think, are basically of our own making. And that really, when you think about it, is an extraordinary statement of hope. So our troubles are all of my own making. Somebody else is not really having resentment. It's not that other person's trouble or problem. They're all of my own making. That means I don't have to change anybody else. I can't change anybody else. The only thing, I just need to change myself, my actions, my thoughts. I'm not able to change or control any other person. All I can change or control is myself and my own thoughts. I would find, I may jump around a little bit. Some of the most important things I think to address for me, what are my problems? Let me talk, is if I'm in this program and I am getting I find myself angry, unhappy, miserable, depressed. What do I do about it? I'm going to say that, to just talk about that in just a minute. But before I forget, I want to say that what I need to do with working the steps particularly 1, 2, and 3. I'm powerless over alcohol. My life become manageable. I have to believe that step 1 to my core, that I am powerless over alcohol. So there's no, it's a constant. There's no variation. I keep hearing about people dying from drugs and alcohol, cancer, whatever. There's a death. I am powerless. I can't drink. There's a birth that I'm powerless. I can't drink. It's Christmas. I'm powerless. I can't drink. Super Bowl Sunday. I'm powerless. I can't drink. It's raining. I can't drink. I'm powerless. It's Tuesday. I can't drink. I'm powerless. It's summer. It's winter. I'm in Hawaii. I'm in Alaska. I can't drink. I'm powerless over alcohol. If I drink what is available to me, what will happen is shortly I will be homeless, penniless, jobless, and waiting for me is jail or institution if I'm lucky, or more likely death. I believe that. And therefore, what we've got here is a system to not drink. It is a way, what we do here is we stop drinking one day at a time. That's what I do. Stop drinking one day at a time. And we put down the bottle, and then we use these steps, which change our our mental approach. It is a way of living. This program presents a way of life, a way of living for me that is vastly more better than my drunk life. I become a kinder person, more patient, kind, tolerant, and loving. A thought of this is, let me just be kinder today. I'll often pray in the morning. Let me not be judgmental. Let me not do harm to others. Just think, if everybody went around, if I did that and everyone else did, there's going to be a lot more serenity and tranquility in the world. But in order to keep that, I must create an unshakable foundation within my program on steps 1, 2, and 3, particularly those. All of the steps are important, but particularly in those, so that when the tough times come, a death, divorce, losing your job, moving is stressful. Moving, I think, is one of the big ones that's stressful, moving your home. When those times come along, the storms within our lives, that we can weather them without needing to turn to alcohol. That's the whole point. I'm going to be uncomfortable. And I'm not going to need to turn to alcohol. I'm going to have the tools during these times of distress, discomfort, unhappiness, to get through them and stay sober, get to the other side of that problem. But I must stay engaged, and I must have that firm foundation. If I'm getting back to, and I'm watching the clock here, says, okay, and I have a bunch of things to say still. I'm hoping the things I say this evening are helpful and useful to somebody with regard to their sobriety and their program. If you're feeling, and I often get unhappy, irritable, angry. And we get that way. And I think about what's going on with me. Then what I'll try to do is, if I'm in this program, what I believe my God wants from me is stay sober and be happy, joyous, and free. And if I'm not that, then probably I'm not in alignment with God's wishes and will for me. And I must remember that, so that I am not cured of alcoholism. And what I have is a daily reprieve contingent on the maintenance. This is on 85, maintenance of spiritual condition. I have heard people say that they read that sentence right there on 85 for 20 to 30 years and not see the word maintenance. So that sentence says, I have a daily reprieve contingent on the maintenance of my spiritual condition. It's not on my spiritual condition, because I could think my spiritual condition is cool and I'm going along, 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, not going to meetings. My spiritual condition is good. I'm not maintaining it. Like this meeting, we are all right now, for me at least, maintaining my spiritual condition. I'm getting fed through this process, as every meeting of AA that I'm on. And when I go and walk in nature, when I speak to friends in program, when I do some kind act, so many things are part of my spiritual maintenance. Certainly helping someone else within program, but it is that maintenance that will keep me centered, that will keep my firm foundation in place, so that when those difficult times come, I'm ready for it and I can stay sober. Because they are sure to come, because life throws a lot of difficult things at us. If I'm not feeling that way, I'm thinking, like I was feeling earlier this week, really angry and irritable. Okay. Right after Thanksgiving, right? I celebrate Thanksgiving, was with family. Thanksgiving's a lovely holiday. I think this holiday period it's kind of a cliche, but stressful. There's a lot of expectation built up on the world. Also, you can be around alcohol. That's difficult when I'm around alcohol. I still find it a little difficult to see. I'm fine. We can go anywhere. If I have reason to be there, the book says reason to be there in a fit spiritual condition, I can go anywhere, into a bar, even to a whoopee party, an all-out whoopee party. So, which the big book says. So I can be anywhere, and but I've got to be a fit spiritual condition. And I was feeling, I think it was like almost what I would call an emotional hangover from the Thanksgiving period, because it raised, and I examined, I said, why am I feeling rotten? What's going on? I was like, I felt angry at everybody. I was short-tempered. I was irritable. What's going on? What's going on? And I thought, oh man, my spiritual condition is not good. And often a gauge. So when I'm into something like that, what I wanted to get to is I have to examine my emotional sobriety. Bill Wilson wrote a piece after being sober for like 20, 23, 4 years on emotion. He was going into a massive depression, and he examined what was going on with him. And he wrote a piece that was published in the Grapevine. It's also in the book, Language of the Heart, which is all Bill Wilson's writings that went into the Grapevine. I'd encourage getting that book. It's wonderful. And called Emotional Sobriety, the Next Frontier. So it's kind of our next frontier, emotional sobriety. We have to examine it, because we can be literally physically sober, no alcohol, but we're not emotionally or mentally sober. I'm not emotionally sober. I'm not acting like a sober person. I'm snapping at people. I'm irritable. I'm short-tempered. I'm mean to some clerk in CVS or the supermarket or whatever. Why should I be mean? They're doing their job. Or I'm short-tempered. So what's going on? One gauge of that is what's I would turn to in the big book is something called the bedevilments. The bedevilments that's within, so it's in We Agnostics, and it's addressing the condition, saying if you're kind of like this, you're probably not in alignment with a higher power. And you may need to address it. And stated things of this sort: we were having trouble with personal relationships. We couldn't control our emotional natures. We were prey to misery and depression, and we couldn't make a living. We had a feeling of uselessness. We were full of fear. We were unhappy. We couldn't seem to be of help to other people. So those things are called bedevilments. The word bedevilment basically means something that bothers or torments us. Okay, that's the definition of that. If I'm in that place, I'd use it as a barometer, right? The bedevilments of my spiritual condition and my emotional sobriety. That means, oh, I'm off. Let me examine this, examine it. What spiritual tool from my toolkit, my spiritual toolkit, should I utilize? Should I have a meeting, call my sponsor, call my sponsee, call my friend in program, get to more meetings? What I usually do is beef up program. I'll go to 2, 3, 4 meetings, 5 meetings, more prayer. So it's just being aware of my emotional sobriety, my emotional condition, I think is extraordinarily important. Many of our problems, I think, are really, as I said earlier, are fear-based. Fear that, generally the fear is that I'm going to either lose something that I've got, or I'm not going to get something I want. And almost all fear, when you think about it, is in the future. It's always in the future. I'm not going to get this thing. I'm not going to get that job. I'm not going to get that check that I'm waiting for. It's always in the future. It's not in the present. And if I stay in the present, I'm not going to be in that fear. The fear is always in the future. So I need to stay in the present. And I would also say that my God is not in the future. My God is in the present. And Bill says in the book that fear is an evil and corroding thread. The fabric of our existence was shot through with it. It set in motion trains of circumstances which brought us misfortune we felt we didn't deserve. Fear. So we always have to examine fear. And my other big thing that I think is a block is anger. And almost always anger stems from some form of judgment. My brother didn't call me back. The neighbor did something, and I'm judging them, and it turns to anger. I have to watch out for that. Because then I am headed into dangerous territory. If I allow that to fester and develop, why is that dangerous? One step away from a bottle. All this stuff I'm talking about, by the way, why is he going on about all this stuff? Because if I don't address this and stay spiritually fit, stay grounded in the program, I'm one arm's length away from a bottle of alcohol, and it will kill me. So that's why I have to do this stuff, why I'm at meetings, why I'm doing all this on a regular basis. And I think my other folks are on here. This is, I'm hearing daily, as I said, of the deaths from other things, but we hear daily about people dying more and more from alcohols and drug overdoses. I think the isolation is a massive problem. And then sort of our times that we're in right now has led to a lot of that and has been quite challenging. I should close out. I've got 2 minutes. I've got 2 minutes to talk, and I want to leave with some useful things for you. I'm gonna, Dr. Bob, let's not forget that the other thing, been talking about some very serious things, alcohol's life or death, but we are not 132, big book. We are not a glum lot. I start out, I joke, Phil and I joke with each other. I joke with other people. Got to remember, we have to have some sense of humor. We have to maintain this very serious topic and matter, but we have to have some sense of humor. We're not a glum lot. If newcomers could see no joy or fun in our existence, then they wouldn't want it. We absolutely insist on enjoying life. Okay, we enjoy life. We learn how to stay sober and enjoy life. We're not just a drag being in AA. This sucks. The rest of my life is in these meetings, in church basements with these stupid signs on the wall. It's not like that. You can do anything you want sober. You just do it without drugs and alcohol. I can go to rock concerts. I can rock climb. I can collect rocks. Anything with rocks I can do. Or I can go to dinner anywhere I want. Okay, so let's remember that. And at the end, within Dr. I've got a few minutes. Dr. Bob's Nightmare on 180. Dr. Bob got something. He's like 5,000 people. He 12-stepped, which was a little hard to believe. He lived 15 years after he got sober only, and then he died of natural causes. He's died sober. Of disease. some other disease. I spend a great deal of time passing on. This is, look at bottom 180, 181 in the 4th edition. I spend a great deal of time passing on what I have learned to others who want and need it badly. I do it for 4 reasons. A sense of duty. It is a pleasure. This is a pleasure for me. 3, because in so doing, I am paying my debt to the man who took time to pass it on to me. 4, because every time I do it, I take out a little more insurance for myself against a possible slip. So the top of 181, that's why we do these meetings, okay? And I've come up with an acronym when I'm feeling kind of crappy. Let me take like 1 minute, Phil, 2 minutes and close out. An acronym for myself. When I'm thinking, what are my biggest, did this about a year ago for myself, what are my biggest problems that I need to deal with to keep myself grounded? And I created, and I don't think it exists. I made it, so I haven't heard anyone else using it. Like, you know how we have HALT? HALT stands for hungry, angry, lonely, tired. Those are things that you need to address so you don't not vulnerable to, for a beginner, watch out for being hungry or tired or thirsty. That's an acronym and a slogan within program. Watch out for those. So mine is PAGE, P-A-G-E, P-A-G-E. That stands for present. I must be present. I can stay fit if I do these things. Present. I didn't talk about, so I'm not in the future. I'm not in the, ugly remorse of the past and all the things I screwed up. I'm present. Look, right now, I'm on this meeting. It's good. My home is warm. It's winter, but my home is warm. I've got food. I've got a house. I've got a car. Everything's cool. Right now, present. So stay present. A is acceptance. I didn't talk about acceptance, but we have to live in acceptance. Go look at the acceptance prayer 417 of the big book. We have acceptance of everything. Need acceptance. G is gratitude. Live an attitude of gratitude, space of gratitude. If I'm grateful for these things, I recognize that anything that I am grateful for, I start drinking, I'm going to lose. That's why I do a gratitude list, and I need an attitude of gratitude every day of my life. And E is ego deflation. Present, acceptance, gratitude, ego deflation. This is a program of humility. It's basically, AA is a tapestry of humility. And we must grow our humility, which is it's just thinking less about ourselves, not less of ourselves, like I'm no good or I'm not smart or something like that. It's just not thinking about ourselves, it's thinking about others. And because if we're built up in ego, then we're going to get slighted. We're going to have resentments, things of that sort, and we're going to want to drink. When my ego's deflated, and my humility grows, and also my God consciousness, I believe, grows, then I'm less likely to drink. So my acronym is PAGE, P-A-G-E. If anyone's interested in that, they can write me about it. I'm going to close with this, why we're so lucky at 8:58 Eastern Standard Time. By being sober, I am given, and we all are given the opportunity to have 2 lives within this one lifetime. The drinking, drunk, depraved, crazy, dangerous, reckless one. Admittedly, there were some good times, but now this sober life, it's so much better. It's so much better. And we have this beautiful, it's like the golden ticket, this beautiful opportunity. And this is the best show in town, the best gig. There's no question. AA, it is the way to do, for an alcoholic, in my opinion, to live. And what a gift it is. Thank you very much for letting me have the opportunity to share here this evening. Thank you, Phil.